Welcome to the Love Story with Lisa channel. Today, we're bringing you a brand new story. My dad ran off with the green TEA, so MOM and I made a plan to kick them out. The day I received my admission results to Tsinghua University, the principal personally came to my house to deliver the acceptance letter. Aside from the scholarship, I was awarded an additional 500,000 yuan. Nearly 1.5 billion in Vietnamese dong. The money had already been transferred into my bank card. The principal didn't bring much with him. Just an enormous plaque. In a solemn ceremony, he formally handed it to me in front of our relatives and the gathered media. Cameras flashed non-stop. Reporters pushed forward with their microphones. My mother, Lydia Lee, was invited up to the stage as well. From the crowd below, I saw my father's current woman, Vanessa He. The jealousy in her eyes burned so fiercely it felt like she could set the entire place on fire. Please stay with us as the story unfolds. A few days later, my stepmother blocked my path on the street. She wanted my money. Specifically, she wanted it so her daughter, Sophie He, could have surgery. I've spent it all, I told her calmly. She didn't believe me. That much money? How could you possibly have spent it all? I smiled. I bought my mom a house. She froze. Even if you bought a house, you couldn't have used it all up. Houses in our county only cost 300,000 or 400,000 yuan. That's barely 900 million dong. I stared at her and enunciated each word clearly. I also bought my mom designer handbags. Perfume. Luxury brands. And then I treated her to a high-end vacation package to repay her for raising me. I tilted my head. Didn't you used to spend my dad's money exactly like that? Her face twisted. No. No. Even if you spent it, you must have kept some for tuition. You're going to Tsinghua University. You'll still need money for school. I shoved her hand away and raised my voice. It's gone. Whether I go to school or not has nothing to do with you. And besides, my father, Victor Zhou, loved one thing above all else, face. His biological son had been admitted to Tsinghua University. If he refused to pay my tuition, he would be ridiculed by relatives and friends alike. Drowned in their gossip and spit. Even if he had to borrow money, he would grit his teeth and do it. Vanessa understood his personality very well. And even if he abandoned me, so what? I had been admitted to one of the top universities in China. Did she really think a Tsinghua student would be unable to afford tuition? But she wouldn't let it go. Recently, my father had grown exhausted with her daughter and had already started distancing himself from them. So now, she was clenching her teeth, glaring at me with hatred. You're not giving the money, are you? Don't force me. You should know, a mother would do anything for her child. I didn't respond. I wanted her to understand something clearly. She wouldn't get a single cent from me, not even a penny. Vanessa suddenly dropped to the ground and began wailing loudly, trying to attract sympathy from the people around us. He raped my daughter. He assaulted her. He even got her pregnant. The crowd gasped. Everyone. Please, someone stand up for us. She cried hysterically. I didn't want to expose family scandals, but my daughter had to get an abortion. She lost so much blood. She's in the hospital now. She needs emergency treatment. The doctor won't come without 100,000 yuan. Ethan won't give us money. How are we supposed to live? In an instant, the crowd turned and began pointing at me. She wanted to destroy me. This was a trap she had carefully prepared, waiting for me to walk straight into it. But what she didn't know was, I had been waiting for this day for a very long time. For my mother, Lydia Lee, I wasn't afraid of dragging her down to hell with me. It all began during the Mid-Autumn Festival when I was in 10th grade. That was when I discovered my father was having an affair. That evening, Mom was cutting mooncakes for Grandma Eleanor Zhou. My younger brother, Leo Zhou, was setting the table with fruit and tea. I was adjusting the television. Back then, cable networks hadn't fully developed in rural areas. Our house still used an old-fashioned box television with an antenna sticking out of the top. Grandma loved watching the KHT music channel. Viewers could send paid text messages to request songs from singers. They could even leave greetings or advertisements that would scroll across the screen. After I finished adjusting the signal, the first song that played was one written by my dad himself. At that time, Dad ran a small veterinary supply shop. He sold pig feed, pesticides, fertilizer, anything rural households might need. Excited, I called Mom over to look at the screen. That was when I saw it. The contact information displayed on the advertisement read, Uncle Zhou and Aunt He. My father's surname was Zhou. But my mother's surname wasn't He, she was a Li. And I was absolutely certain the phone number listed under Uncle Zhou was identical to my father's. Even more disturbing, the phone number under Aunt He looked painfully familiar. It belonged to Vanessa He. She owned the hair salon next to my dad's shop. Advertisements like that usually listed family names and numbers for contact. My mom also owned a PHS phone, the old brick-style kind, like the Nokia models that were popular in the early 2000s. So why would my father put Vanessa He's number on that advertisement? Vanessa had a terrible reputation in town. When I was younger, I attended school in town and would often eat lunch there instead of going home. I spent plenty of time at Dad's shop and overheard many rumors about her. She had married early, at 17 or 18. She had a child young. Her husband was unemployed. Later, she learned hairdressing and opened her salon. Her appearance was ordinary, but her figure was exceptional, and she knew how to dress. Whatever trends were popular in the city, she would copy them perfectly. She loved flirting with men, and many of them were said to kneel at her feet. Her husband was a lazy thug who rarely came home. Whenever he did, it was only to demand money, and yet, a woman like that was now listed alongside my father as shared contact information. My instincts told me this was anything but normal. Recently, my father hadn't shown anything unusual, so I hadn't paid much attention. But that day was Mid-Autumn Festival. In our town, people valued family gatherings deeply. It was already late, and yet he still hadn't come home. That wasn't normal, I asked Mom. Lydia Lee said one of his friends had invited him out for drinks and that he would be back soon. I didn't believe it. At this hour? In this weather? What kind of friend would drag him out drinking tonight? Were they blind to what day it was? I wheeled my bicycle out and told Mom I was going into town to pick Dad up. Then I sped off, and sure enough, the friend my father had mentioned was Vanessa He. The two of them were tipsy inside her hair salon. They were pressed close together. My father's hand rested at the collar of her blouse. The glass door was half open, half closed. Under the dim light spilling out from inside, I saw Vanessa leaning affectionately against his shoulder. Her voice soft and teasing, half her chest was exposed. Maybe she looked seductive to him. To me, it was revolting. I wanted to rush in and tear her face apart, but I knew my father would protect her to the very end. He would never admit anything without undeniable evidence. And if I barged in, screamed, caught them red-handed, dragged a crowd to witness it, what about my mother? Where would she put her dignity? No, the right to decide how to handle this had to belong to Lydia Lee. For years, she had cared for Grandma Eleanor Zhou through illness and old age. She washed clothes, fed pigs, worked the fields, cooked, and handled everything at home alone. All the household money was in Victor Zhou's hands. If my mother wanted a divorce, she had to secure the maximum benefit for herself, and whether she chose to forgive him or not, they would have to divorce. I knew that clearly. Tonight was not the time to tear off the mask of their affair, so instead, I pushed my bicycle to the end of the street, deliberately slipped, and fell. Then I cried out loudly. The commotion was enough to attract the attention of everyone nearby, including my father and Vanessa. Before anyone else could open a door, my father hurried out of Vanessa's salon, then quickly pretended to emerge from his own shop next door. He stepped outside. Someone asked him, "Mr. Zhou, why are you still in your shop at this hour?" He forced an awkward smile. "Had a friend over. We had a few drinks." Then he turned to me. "Why aren't you at home? What are you doing here?" I bared my teeth and said, "I came to pick you up." The neighbors exchanged meaningful glances. "Mr. Zhou, your son is a good boy. So filial." They laughed. Together, they helped me up along with my bicycle. My knee was scraped. They lifted me onto my father's back. From over his shoulder, I saw Vanessa standing at the door of her salon. Her face cold and dark, then she slammed the door shut. On the way home, I sat on the back of my father's motorbike. He seemed lost in thought. That night, he drove unusually slowly. I guessed he had realized something. After all, since I was 9 years old, I had been attending school in town. I had ridden that road countless times. I knew every large stone at the intersection better than anyone. I decided to use this chance to warn him. "Dad," I said casually, "earlier I saw you on TV. That advertisement on the music channel." He gave a non-committal grunt. "You trying to beat the village drum or something? How'd you manage that?" "I saw the contact information." "Why is it Auntie's number? Why didn't you put Mom's number instead?" The moment I said that, I felt his back stiffen beneath me. He hesitated several times before replying, "Oh. Well, sometimes I go play cards with friends, or I'm busy. If customers call Auntie's number, she can notify me." Such a clumsy excuse. If he was busy, he could simply take his phone with him, unless when he wasn't at the shop, Vanessa could open it for him. Look after the store. Handle payments for customers. Had it already developed that far, if things were really as I suspected? Then Vanessa probably already had a spare key to my father's shop, and the contact information on the television advertisement. There was only one explanation. They wanted to make it public. If that was the case, I needed to tell Mom as soon as possible and start planning. But the problem was, how could I say it in a way that would make her believe me? Time was running out, so I pressed further. "Dad, you should remove Auntie's phone number from the advertisement. You two aren't business partners or anything. People might misunderstand. They might think you're husband and wife." I paused deliberately. According to the law, that could be considered a violation of marriage regulations. "Brat," he snapped. "Don't talk nonsense." I knew he had already made up his mind to divorce, but I hadn't expected that even if the rain wished to fall gently, the wind would refuse to stop. After I warned him, Vanessa began making trouble. She was impatient. She wanted to claim her position openly. One Saturday evening, I saw my younger brother, Liu Zhou, throwing a brand new toy police car into the pond. I hurried over. "Leo, that's a nice toy. Why are you destroying it? Did Dad buy it for you when he went to restock today?" Whenever my father went to the county to restock supplies, he would tell Mom to watch the shop. I usually stayed home to care for Grandma, and sometimes Leo would go to the shop with Mom. Sometimes Leo would even go to the county with Dad. Leo shook his head unhappily. No. Dad didn't buy it. Someone else did. That answer made me instantly alert. An 8-year-old child would normally be thrilled to receive a new toy from anyone, unless that person made him uncomfortable. After pressing him for details, I found out the toy had been bought by Vanessa and after buying it, she forced him to call her mom. Rage shot through me. How could that shameless woman be so brazen? I glanced at my mother, Lydia Lee, who was feeding the pigs in the sty. Then I pulled Leo aside and told him to explain everything clearly. It turned out that morning, Dad had taken Leo to the county to restock supplies. He had told the driver to wait because someone else was coming along. Not long after, Vanessa arrived, dressed extravagantly, heavy makeup on her face, and sat pressed close beside my father in the car. The driver casually asked, "You going to restock too?" She answered lightly, Who would have thought? After getting out of the car, she followed my father and Leo the entire way. Once the supplies were purchased, Dad even took her shopping for clothes and shoes. At one point, someone mistook them for a family of 3. Vanessa seized the opportunity. Using the new toy car as leverage, she and my father pressured Leo to call her mom. But the most important part, after lunch, they actually rented a hotel room for a midday rest. They left Leo sitting in the outer sitting area, watching television. He was still small. He fell asleep there, and behind his back, inside the bedroom right next to him, separated by nothing more than a thin, non-soundproof wall, they were together. As Leo recounted this, he began to cry. "Big brother. I saw it. There was a bed in there. Did Dad sleep in the same bed as Auntie?" He wiped his tears. Before she went in, Auntie pinched my cheek. "It hurt. She said, when I told you to call me Mom, you refused. Now I'm going in there to be your mother." Leo didn't understand what those words meant. He didn't know what they were doing in that room. But he knew one thing. If you weren't husband and wife, you couldn't sleep in the same bed. He sobbed, "Big brother, Dad slept with another woman." "What about Mom? Is Mom still our mom?" My anger burned hotter and hotter. How dare they behave so recklessly in front of a child? They didn't even bother to avoid him. This had to be told to Mom. If we waited longer, that woman might do even more outrageous things. Better to tell her early, let her prepare herself mentally, so she wouldn't be shattered by a sudden blow. I took Leo by the hand and brought him in front of Mom. She was about to wash Grandma Eleanor Joe's pile of dirty laundry. My mother was very thin. After giving birth to the 2 of us, she never regained weight. Years of labor from dawn till night had aged her far beyond women her age. Sweat dampened her hair, on her face, her hands, her entire body. There were marks everywhere, traces left by hardship. Suddenly, I couldn't speak. She was still holding the wash basin when she urged me impatiently. "If you have something to say it quickly. I have a lot of work to do." I gently took the basin from her hands and set it aside. Then I pulled a chair I had placed by the front gate earlier and helped her sit down. I spoke solemnly, "Mom, you need to listen carefully to what Leo is about to say. But no matter what, don't be too sad. I'm still your son. I'm here." Finally, I told Leo to recount everything. Clearly, Mom had heard no rumors about Dad and Vanessa. I understood that. Everyone in town knew how much effort Mom had poured into the family, how deeply she loved Victor Joe. No one had the heart to hurt a woman like her. Perhaps they all thought Vanessa's involvement with Dad was just like her previous flirtations with other men, nothing serious. Who would have imagined that this time, she truly intended to steal someone's husband, when the truth fell upon a woman like my mother. When she heard that they had rented a room together, she cried so hard she could barely breathe. She couldn't even sit upright. I rushed to support her, rubbing her back over and over. I knew children's words could sometimes lack evidence, but between blood relatives, the credibility was high. Every sentence Leo spoke now felt like a blade carving into her heart. At one point, Mom seemed to collapse to her knees. She clutched my sleeve tightly and wept. "Why would your father do this? Why? How could he treat me like this?" Seeing her in such agony tore me apart, and the more it hurt, the deeper my hatred for those two people who had wounded her. Leo, frightened by the scene, began crying too. From inside the room, Grandma Eleanor Zhou heard the commotion. She pounded the edge of her bed and called out, "Tu Fuang! Tu Fuang! What's wrong?" Mom choked out, "Mom," and then broke into sobs again. Grandma grew anxious and called for me. "Ethan Zhou, what's going on with your mother? Why is she crying?" Grandma loved my mother dearly. Their relationship as mother-in-law and daughter-in-law had always been harmonious. Worried about alarming her, Mom forced herself to stop crying. She wanted to hide her emotions. She tried to steady herself. I thought she would ask us to conceal Dad's affair from Grandma, but instead, she led Leo and me to Grandma's bedside, and she told her everything, every single detail about those two adulterers. Grandma was furious. She grabbed the walking cane by her bedside and hurled it far across the room. As she threw it, she cursed Victor Zhou as a beast. When she finally calmed down, she grasped Mom's hands. In the wrinkled hollows of her eyes, cloudy pupils shimmered with tears. Grandma wept and murmured in her aged, trembling voice, "Tu Fuang, Tu Fuang. I've wronged you. If it weren't for this old woman burdening you, you could have taken your children and lived in town with your husband. If you had been there watching him, he wouldn't have dared do this." Mom shook her head repeatedly through tears. "No, Mom. You did nothing wrong. It's Victor Zhou who is wrong." And then, mother-in-law and daughter-in-law cried together. 6 years ago, Grandma had fallen and broken her hip. She had been bedridden ever since. For all these years, it had been my mother alone who cared for Grandma Eleanor Zhou. Every single day, she emptied urine and feces. She massaged Grandma's numb legs and arms. She helped her turn over in bed. She bathed her. She changed the sheets. She moved in and out of the house like a spinning top, never stopping for a moment. She never let her two sons share her burdens. At night, she still had to wait up and take care of her husband when he came home late. And a woman like that, what did she receive in return? Betrayal. I wanted to storm out and find that scumbag. I wanted to beat him until he couldn't stand, but I knew I couldn't. I was still young. I might not even win in a fight against him, and even if I did, what would it change? Nothing. After they calmed down a little, I asked Mom, "What are you going to do?" Before she could answer, Grandma spoke first. "What else is there to do? Of course we beat your father senseless. Make a scene. Catch them in the act." She was breathing hard. "Tomorrow, you call your uncle over. Tell him everything. Then find a chance to wreck those shameless adulterers." After a moment, her voice softened as she turned to Mom. "If you want a divorce, I agree. Take me to town with you. Let that bastard serve me instead." She paused. "But if you don't want a divorce, then gather a crowd. Make Victor Zhou kneel and apologize. Make him write a guarantee letter that he'll never do this again. I supported the idea of going to find my uncle. No matter what happened, the disgraceful behavior of those two had to be dragged into the light. Mom took me to my uncle's house. Regarding Dad's affair, my uncle and aunt had completely different ideas. Uncle said we had to find a chance to beat Victor Zhou properly. As for what to do afterward, he hadn't thought that far. My aunt, however, focused entirely on persuading Mom. As a woman, you need to be broad-minded. What capable man doesn't have a few outside affairs? It's normal. Beat him once to show your stance, fine. After that, lock your husband at home. Keep him away from that woman. Don't be foolish enough to divorce. She spoke rapidly, like firecrackers going off. If you divorce, that woman will benefit. Victor Zhou's business is doing well. Of course people are jealous. Sister-in-law, if you stay with him, you'll enjoy a good life in the future. But if you divorce, what then? You have 2 sons. Who will you raise? Both of them? When they grow up, they'll need houses and cars to get married. Can you afford that? Her words came one after another, leaving Mom speechless. Her stance was clear. Making a scene to vent anger was already the biggest concession she was willing to support. If Mom insisted on divorcing Dad, there would be no place for her at her natal home. Now my aunt held the authority in my uncle's household. Mom didn't argue. Once a woman is married off, it means she no longer has a home to return to. Perhaps this was the reality for many women. It was also Grandma's mindset. 'Cause a scene. Vent the anger. Then husband and wife return under the same roof. I didn't know what Mom was truly thinking, but in my plan, the step of catching them in the act was absolutely necessary. And it didn't take long before the opportunity came. One afternoon, Leo was at Dad's shop. There were no customers. The 2 adulterers took advantage of the quiet and began flirting inside the hair salon next door, leaving Leo to play alone. I had long instructed him, if he ever saw Dad and that woman sleeping in the same bed again, he had to call home immediately. Leo borrowed a friend's grandfather's phone and called Mom. Mom and I informed my uncle's family. Then we rode our motorbike straight into town. My uncle didn't live far. He also called several other uncles and relatives. Each of them rode a motorbike. In total, 7 or 8 people rushed toward town, like a swarm of hornets bursting into a nest. They stormed into Dad's shop. The 2 naked figures on the bed were terrified out of their wits. A fight was inevitable. Women fought women, men fought men. Because I was still a minor, no one allowed me inside. I stood outside, covering Leo's ears, listening to the miserable screams of those 2. Vanessa's shrill voice pierced the air. The neighbors gathered tightly around. It became too crowded inside, so people forced the 2 down the stairs. Of course Vanessa refused. She shrieked hysterically and cried loudly. I heard that her pale body rolled around on the floor, throwing a tantrum at everyone's feet. The men, snapping back to their senses, realized they shouldn't be staring at a woman's exposed body. Step by step, they retreated. At that moment, someone rushed into the crowd holding a knife. Let go of my mom. Let go of my mom right now. Or I'll stab you. It was Sophie. Her hair was disheveled. She was trembling violently, like a madwoman. Someone tried to stop her, but she slashed out. In an instant, a man's arm was cut. The crowd scattered. Protected by her daughter, Vanessa grabbed her clothes and fled out the back door. Mom's crying was heartbreaking. She cried and beat at my father, who was clutching a blanket around his body, as if trying to vent every ounce of resentment she had endured over the years. Everyone wanted those two shameless adulterers to pay for hurting Mom. But before the struggle could even end, the police arrived. Sophie had called them. She reported that a group of people were beating her mother, so the officers rounded everyone up and took them to the station. Some people even said calling the police was a good thing. After all, the two had committed adultery in front of witnesses. This was a chance to punish them properly, but after understanding the situation, the police looked troubled. The station chief pulled me, Mom, my uncle, and my aunt into another room for a private conversation. I insisted that the police station make a thorough written record of the investigation, every detail documented, as evidence of my father's affair. The station chief said they could simply classify the incident as an ordinary fight. Any compensation or related matters could be negotiated privately. The moment my uncle and aunt heard that, their expressions darkened with displeasure. Only I understood that the station chief was offering a kind reminder. Catching someone in adultery might win you moral ground. But in terms of reason and the law, we could just as easily be charged with provoking trouble. In a low voice, I explained this to my uncle and aunt. The police also advised them that whatever remained was a family matter, best resolved among ourselves. Perhaps, deep down, everyone believed the same thing, that when men stray, it's only natural that women should give them a chance to repent and start over. But the problem was, my father felt no remorse at all. In front of Grandma Eleanor Jo, he only insisted that he had been momentarily dizzy with foolishness. He had never intended to divorce my mother. He even turned around and blamed her. He said she was busy from dawn till late at night, that she would collapse into bed the moment she lay down, or run straight to Grandma's room instead. Then he looked at me and my younger brother, shamelessly saying, "Lydia, this is between adults. Children don't understand. I'm only 37 this year. I'm a normal man." Grandma asked my mother softly, "Is what he's saying true?" Just a few words, and my mother's eyes reddened. I might not have fully understood everything, but I knew one thing clearly. My father was pushing all the blame onto her. I was about to speak up, but Grandma shouted at me to stay quiet. "Let your parents handle this themselves," she said. "You just take good care of Leo." Her meaning was obvious. Husband and wife fight at the head of the bed, and reconcile at the foot of it. My mother said nothing. I thought everyone was exhausted, so I told her to rest first. But the more I thought about it, the more I couldn't bear the idea of her staying in the same room as my father. She had endured so much. She deserved someone to lean on. I was her son. If I didn't protect her, who would? I was just about to call out to her when I suddenly heard the two of them arguing inside. "Sleep? Sleep with you?" My mother's voice trembled with fury. "You slept with her for 3 days, and now you want to sleep with me? You haven't even bathed. Don't touch me. You're filthy." My father snapped back just as harshly. "You dragged a whole crowd to catch me in the act. Made such a huge scene. How am I supposed to do business after this? Are you trying to destroy this family?" My mother's voice rose, shaking. "Your mother is paralyzed and bedridden. I stay home serving her. I take care of 2 children. I'm busy from morning till night. And you, have you ever shared any of my burden? In front of your own mother, you dare to say I haven't fulfilled my duty as a wife? And today, plus that woman telling outsiders that she's your wife, you must give me a proper explanation." My father grew impatient. "Haven't you had enough already? I told you, I was just playing around with her. What more explanation do you want? I never wanted a divorce. Now what do you want? Divorce?" He let out a cold laugh. "You think I'm afraid of divorcing you? I'm telling you right now, I don't need either of those sons. You can raise them yourself. I have to take care of my mother. I don't know how to look after kids. I've already consulted a lawyer. When the time comes, I'll just pay child support, 2 or 3,000 yuan a month. Let's see how you raise them on that. When they grow up, they'll need houses and cars to get married. With your ability, they'll only suffer. He continued mercilessly, I don't mind at all. Go ahead and make a fuss. If you want a divorce, just look at the 2 children first. It won't be too late to regret it later. At the end, he even smiled. In that moment, I could feel how powerless my mother was. It seemed as if she was being persuaded. For our sake, finally, she said quietly, at the very least, you must do as your mother said. Write a letter of guarantee. Apologize to me in front of everyone. Promise never to see that woman again. My father snorted in disdain. It was obvious he had no intention of agreeing. I knew if this continued, my mother would gain nothing more, so I shouted loudly, Mom! Leo is coughing. Come take a look. She thought I was telling the truth. Wiping her tears, she hurried out. I followed behind her, my heart aching beyond words. That's what being a mother is. Her children will always come first. In that instant, I understood her choice. Leo was already asleep. I lay down beside him. Mom, stay in our room tonight, I said softly. You can sleep here with us. Her voice was hoarse. She lay down on my brother's pillow, on the small bed the 2 of us shared. You still have class tomorrow, she murmured. Sleep early. I knew she cried after that. In the dark, I fumbled by the bedside and took out the small amount of money I had saved. I pressed it into her hand. Mom, this is my savings. Leo and I know everything. Tomorrow, go stay with Aunt Miriam Sue for a few days. Use the time to clear your mind. Think carefully about your relationship with Dad. Just follow your heart. Aunt Miriam Sue was my mother's closest friend. She didn't reply. She just lay there and cried. Early the next morning, she was gone from our room. But I found the note she had left behind. She wrote that she was going out to get some air. Breakfast was already prepared in the pot for Leo and me. I woke my brother, helped him wash up, and the 2 of us ate before getting ready for school. This time, Grandma's old wish had finally come true. She wanted my father to take care of her. At noon, we went to Dad's shop for lunch. It wasn't open, neither was Vanessa He's hair salon next door. I guessed she would have to rest at home for a few days. She had been badly injured the day before, bruises everywhere, even on her face. A handful of her hair had been torn out. When the neighbors saw the 2 of us, they called us in to eat with them. I declined and said we had a spare key. Someone asked, where are your parents? My brother answered honestly, Dad's at home. Mom left. Where did she go? I don't know. I heard someone whisper, Lydia is really determined this time. She's probably going to divorce. Those poor children. Another person asked, if your parents divorce, who will you stay with? My brother replied without hesitation, with my brother. Those words, I was the one who taught Leo to say them. I had thought it through carefully. I would take good care of him. Last night, everything my father said forced me to reconsider many things. I would not let him use us to threaten Mom. I would raise my little brother well so that neither of us would ever become a burden to her again. My mother was capable. Wherever she went, she could make a living. I believed that the 3 of us, mother and sons, would never end up destitute the way that bastard had cursed us to be. But if Mom chose not to divorce him, if she accepted his apology, then I would accept it too. In the end, I would wait for her decision. That afternoon, after school, I rode my bicycle home with Leo. The moment we stepped into the yard, we saw chaos. The pigs in the pen were squealing miserably from hunger. Grandma Eleanor Jo's bed had been dragged halfway out of place, and the entire room reeked of stench. Grandma was cursing non-stop. My father, Victor Jo, sat beside her in silence, unable to say a word. When he saw me, he barked, "Hurry up and clean this house." I handed Leo's school bag to him and said calmly, "I still have evening self-study. 3 classes. Did you forget?" "Ask for leave," he snapped. "I'll call your teacher." He wanted to negotiate with me, but I answered him properly and firmly. In the past, I thought studying wasn't that important. But now I think the opposite. Reading can change our fate. It can give Mom more choices in the future. Of course, I was still kind enough to give him detailed instructions. Grandma uses the toilet once every 2 hours. You have to hold a basin for her. Afterward, wipe her clean. You need to massage her at least 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, and night. Half an hour each time. She can't eat cold or hard food. No pickled vegetables either. Every meal has to be freshly stir-fried dishes to go with rice. In summer she gets overheated easily, but she doesn't like too much wind. If she sweats, check whether her clothes are damp. If they are, change them. That's how Mom does it. Oh, right. The pigs eat sweet potato vines from the field. You have to chop them up, mix them with bran, and feed them. After they finish eating, pour water into the trough. Leo hasn't had dinner yet. He doesn't like salty food. As for me, don't worry. I'll probably grab a steamed bun later. After saying all that, I rode my bicycle away, leaving behind feathers and chaos scattered all over the ground, leaving Comrade Victor Jo to experience life firsthand. That night when I returned home, I saw Leo sitting at the table doing his homework. Dinner was already laid out. The foul smell in Grandma's room was gone. Her bedding and clothes had been changed. On the bedside table sat a bowl of warm water. The moment I saw that bowl, I knew it wasn't my father's doing. He was not that meticulous. When I asked, I learned he had called our eldest aunt over. She had worked while scolding him the entire time. She said he didn't know how to appreciate what he had, throwing away a young, beautiful, capable wife like Lydia Lee, only to bring home some vixen. Does that woman even look like someone who'd take care of her mother-in-law? She had sneered. Wearing gold and silver all day long. If you marry her, can you even afford to keep her? After she finished, she left, but not before warning me sternly not to foolishly call her over to wipe Grandma again. The important thing, she had said, is to bring Lydia back as soon as possible. After checking Leo's homework, I took him to wash up. The noise must have disturbed the old man dozing nearby. Red-eyed, my father asked, "Do you know where your mom went?" I nodded. "She's staying at Aunt Miriam Sue's." He let out a small laugh. "Good son. I know you don't want us to divorce." I didn't answer. I would only listen to Mom. Everything would depend on her happiness. He paused before continuing. "I called your mom. She said she wants to relax for a couple of days. Don't worry. I'll handle things at home. You just focus on studying." He sounded sincere. Maybe seeing the situation with Leo and me had softened him. I wanted to ask if he regretted it, but he had already closed his eyes, lying back in the chair, offering no further explanation. Early the next morning, as usual, I was taking Leo to school when father called me back. He handed me 50 yuan. Then he lifted Leo down from the bicycle. "You go ahead to school," he said. "Don't bring Leo with you. I'll take him later. Use the money for breakfast. If there's any left, it'll cover both you and your brother." I took the money and rode off. At noon, Leo and I still ate together as usual. I heard the neighbors talking. They said they saw my father driving and waiting to take Leo to school that morning. Afterward, he went to the shop and opened it briefly, apparently for an appointment with a customer. When he locked up to leave, Vanessa he pretended to carry out a few buckets of water, clearly testing him. He didn't even glance at her. After locking the door, he turned and walked away without hesitation. The neighbors said, "Looks like Victor Zhou has turned back from his reckless ways." At home, he had grown much more skilled at caring for grandma, though there were still many clumsy moments. He was gradually getting the hang of it. On the third day after school, I came home to find rice and braised pork left in the pot for me. By the fifth day, it was Saturday. I didn't have evening self-study, but I had classroom duty, so I returned home quite late. When I stepped into the yard, I saw a table set up outside. Many people were sitting around it. My parents sat facing each other. Grandma had even been carried out and placed on a rattan chair. Everything looked solemn, as if some kind of ceremony were about to begin. I understood immediately. They were there to witness my father apologizing to my mother. He would write a letter of guarantee as requested, and publicly promise that he would never betray Lydia Lee like this again. After that, following the village head's suggestion, my parents rented 2 apartments in town and moved the whole family there. Mom was responsible for building a home. Dad was responsible for building a house. Not long after, we relocated everything to town. The rental place wasn't far from my father's shop, about a 5-minute walk. On moving day, many people came. Some came to gossip. Some came to help Mom carry things. Late in the afternoon, Vanessa he appeared. She was holding her husband's hand, with her daughter beside her. The 3 of them had gone shopping at the county supermarket. Sophie he walked ahead, licking an ice cream, while the husband and wife followed behind her. From a distance, they looked harmonious, happy. The next day, my father's shop and Vanessa he's salon both reopened. No one mentioned the adultery incident anymore. Every day, Mom cared for Grandma Eleanor Zhou. At the same time, she followed my father around, learning how to manage the business. She had only graduated from middle school, but before long, she was able to handle most of the shop's operations on her own. On Vanessa he's side, her husband also started returning home more often. Time passed, everything seemed to fall back into its proper track. In the first semester of 10th grade, I competed in a provincial-level academic competition. From a rural kid ranked 176th, I jumped to first place in the entire region. According to tradition, the results of that competition would determine admission to the best high school in the province. Not long after, the top high school called our home. The school administration was overjoyed. They believed I had brought great honor to our original school. To encourage the other students, they decided that on Monday morning I would give a speech in front of the flagpole. That day, I received many love letters from girls. Among them was one from Vanessa he's daughter. Her name was Sophie he. She was in the same grade as me, also in 10th grade, but in one of the lower performing classes that mainly kept the bottom-ranked students. Sophie came to find me, pretending to hold 2 exercise books, asking me to tutor her. I refused. She flew into a rage. "Ethan Zhou, you're so busy just because you ranked first?" she demanded angrily. Why didn't you reply to my letter? Why won't you help me with my studies? I almost laughed. Sophie, I said coldly, what kind of relationship do we have? Don't you understand that clearly? I deliberately emphasized the word relationship, hoping she would grasp the meaning. Her mother was the other woman, the third party who had inserted herself into my family. I wanted her to understand that, and disappear from my sight. She stared at me for a long time. Then suddenly she let out a flirtatious laugh. Being good at studying isn't that impressive, she said lazily. Right now, we don't have any relationship. In the future? We might. I wasn't stupid, I heard the implication immediately. What do you mean? Say it clearly. I grabbed her arm as she tried to turn away. She swayed slightly but didn't shake me off. Suddenly she shouted, Ethan Joe. Let go of me. You're hurting me. It was evening self-study time. Quite a few students were around. Everyone turned to look. The previous adultery scandal had spread widely. Many classmates knew about it. They knew I despised Sophie, but she alone kept coming to me, creating unnecessary trouble, and had the audacity to think she was clever. Now, with everyone watching us appear to struggle together, her goal had been achieved. She smiled brightly, stood on tiptoe, and whispered in my ear, last month, your dad went to the provincial capital for 7 days of a training. You really think he was training? In that instant, it felt as if my whole body had fallen into an ice cellar, cold, biting cold. My chest tightened so hard I could barely breathe. After the adultery incident, Mom and I had kept a close eye on Dad. Who could have imagined he was still carrying on the affair in secret? From Sophie, I learned many things I had never known. My father and Vanessa, he had never cut contact. He had even bought a new phone specifically to communicate with her. Vanessa, he had long since divorced her husband. Previously, that man had only taken money to come back and put on a show for us. Behind our backs, my father and Vanessa continued meeting. Whenever he claimed he was going to purchase supplies for the shop, and that so-called 7-day training session, all lies. He had fabricated the story to celebrate Vanessa's birthday with her. The three of them, father, mother, daughter, had traveled together, gone sightseeing, gone shopping, gone everywhere as a family. Sophie wanted to provoke me, so she told me everything. Where they went, how they traveled, what gifts my father bought. She described it all in detail. Ethan Joe, she said with mock pity, you're really pathetic. You're trying so hard to mend your broken family. But behind your back, your dad has always been planning to marry my mom. Do you know why your dad always plays both sides with your mother? I'll tell you. It's because he wants to protect me and my mom. He doesn't want us to suffer. He doesn't want my mom to have to take care of your grandma. She lifted her chin proudly. At her age, perhaps she truly believed her mother and my father were destined lovers, that they were true love. This time, I did not choose to hide it from Mom. When I returned home, I told her everything. At the end, I said, Mom, divorce him. I thought she would cry, but she didn't. Ever since I knew your father crossed the line, she said calmly, I've already treated him like a stranger living under the same roof. Physically, he's just someone to pass the time with. Emotionally, I see him as a man who once fell into a pit of filth. Still useful, but he's already lost half his worth. Divorce is fine. When that time comes, I want half of the property. For the past 6 months, I've mastered the pesticide and fertilizer side of the business. After the divorce, I want full rights to manage those products from the shop. I'll open a new store. If he refuses, then we'll consider other options. I nodded. Mom was capable. Wherever she went, she would find a way to live. Sophie, he had said my father didn't divorce because of Grandma. But no one knew how long Grandma would live. For now, he had pushed Grandma onto my mother. At least at this stage, he probably hadn't guarded himself against Mom yet. He hadn't touched the property arrangements. My mother and I decided to hire a lawyer. We wanted it fast and decisive. And it truly was fast. After we provided the evidence, the lawyer quickly uncovered proof that my father had continued his affair with Vanessa for more than half a year, after he had publicly written that solemn guarantee. Added to that was the fact that my mother had sacrificed so much for this family over the years. In the end, the court ruled, each parent would take one child. The property would be divided equally. I still remember the exact expression on my father's face when the documents were placed in his hands. Shock, pure disbelief. Perhaps he had never imagined that Lydia Lee would truly dare to divorce him, dare to go this far. After a long silence, he exploded. Lydia Lee, what are you doing? At that moment, Mom was changing Grandma Eleanor Joe's bedsheets. She didn't even turn around to look at him. What am I doing? It's written clearly in those papers. Are you illiterate? Grandma, hearing my father's furious breathing, asked anxiously, Tu Phuong, what is it? Mom patiently explained, Mom, it's the court's ruling. I want to divorce Victor Zhou. Why? Grandma and my father shouted at the same time, why? Mom repeated calmly. Victor Zhou, don't you know the answer in your heart? Back then, you swore to heaven and earth that you would never contact that woman again. You cursed yourself, saying if you broke the promise, lightning would strike you dead, or you'd be run over by a car. I'll ask you just one thing. In the past half year, have you ever once been afraid of being struck by lightning? Or hit by a car? My father's face stiffened. But he believed he had hidden everything well, so he continued to deny it stubbornly. What nonsense are you talking about? Who's been spreading rumors to you? Mom laughed from sheer anger. She pointed at the legal document. The law speaks with evidence. Whether I'm talking nonsense or not, let's see in court. My request is simple. Split the property evenly. One child each. I'm taking Leo. Grandma immediately roared in protest. No. No one is taking him. You are not taking the Zhou family's grandson. She reached out, trying to grab my mother. Tu Phuong, please. Leo is still young. He can't suffer with you. My father suddenly seemed to find his footing. If you want a divorce. Fine. But you are not taking Leo. My mother and I had already discussed this beforehand. Would stay with my father. A younger brother would go with Mom. Leo was still small. He needed our mother. As for me, I was old enough. I wouldn't let myself be mistreated by a stepmother. But my father insisted on keeping Leo. That completely disrupted our plan. The lawyer explained that in families with two children seeking divorce, in principle, custody arrangements are negotiated. But if the child is too young, the court will consider the child's wishes, while also evaluating the parent's financial conditions before making a ruling. Under the current circumstances, the possibility of Leo being awarded to my father was high. For years, Mom had not had formal employment. The primary source of income came from my father's shop. Mom couldn't understand. If the savings and shop could be split equally, why couldn't she fight for custody of Leo? The lawyer explained that. At this stage, we were only proposing our preferred arrangement. There was no guarantee she would receive half the business rights. And indeed, when we went to court, my father's lawyer presented a different proposal. Savings divided equally. Leo would stay with my father. The business rights would belong entirely to my father. In exchange, he would provide an additional compensation payment to my mother. This session ended without agreement. The court scheduled another hearing 1 month later. Our lawyer advised Mom that within this month, she should find a job and sign a formal labor contract. Mom was in a difficult position. In just over a month, I would be entering a crucial examination period. She was afraid her situation would affect my studies. I told her not to exaggerate the concern. I can take care of Leo. My studies are fine. You should focus on securing your own future first. From that day on, my mother officially left the house that had once been our home. Aunt Miriam Sue introduced her to a job, contracting to cook for her husband's company. Mom was an excellent cook. The job suited her perfectly. Just a few days after she left, my father hurriedly brought Vanessa home. Vanessa cared for Grandma for only 2 or 3 days before claiming that Grandma didn't like her. Soon, she hired a distant rural relative to take over. The woman was nearly 50 years old. Short, stout, rough-looking, but not particularly honest. She spoke loudly and carried herself like someone hardened by life. Vanessa called her auntie. She paid her 1,000 yuan a month. At that time, the average salary was only 800 yuan. Vanessa obeyed my father in everything, like a newly married, docile young wife. She cooked for Leo and me as well, but she put special effort into pleasing my little brother, buying him many clothes and toys, telling Sophie he to take good care of him. Once, I overheard Vanessa speaking to that rural relative. The woman asked why my father wanted Leo but not me. Vanessa replied smugly. Victor Zhou thinks the older one is already grown. Hard to raise close again. And having another child would damage my body. Leo is still young. Raise him for a few years and he'll become attached. I think he's right. If we took the older one, it wouldn't work. That older one always listens to his mother. A white-eyed wolf, Vanessa, he sneered. Raise him all you want, he'll never grow close. At that, she let out a smug little laugh. I don't even want to have another child, she added. At my age, recovery isn't like when you're young. It would affect married life. My little brother had no intention of growing close to her. At the dinner table, whenever she picked food for him, he would angrily sweep it straight into the trash can. Naturally, my father would take Vanessa's side. The moment father raised a hand, Leo would burst into loud sobs, rolling on the floor, throwing a tantrum so fierce that even the neighbors had to come over to intervene. If Vanessa bought him new clothes, he would either refuse to wear them, or wear them outside and deliberately tear them beyond repair. The kind of tearing that couldn't even be mended, and so, scoldings and beatings were inevitable. Toys were the same, none survived longer than a day. Vanessa, playing the role of the kind stepmother, kept buying new ones. He would destroy them, she would buy again, a vicious cycle. Day by day, my brother's hatred toward her deepened. Sometimes, when father beat him, he would glare at Vanessa and shout through tears, "You shameless woman. Just wait until I grow up, I'll take revenge on you." No matter how patient someone was, they couldn't endure Leo's stubborn resistance forever. But Leo didn't stop. He escalated. Watching from the sidelines, I almost pitied the people on the receiving end. When destroying things stopped having an effect, he changed tactics. He went to Grandma Eleanor Zhou's bedside and cried loudly. "Grandma, I want Mom. I want Mom. I want Mom." He cried until Grandma cried with him. She wasn't just crying for his loss of his mother, she was crying for her own loss too. for the daughter-in-law she had driven away. Over those days, I had been observing carefully. The hired rural aunt wasn't attentive in caring for Grandma. She didn't chat with her either. Grandma was deeply dissatisfied with Vanessa. She resented my father for beating her grandson. Leo would cry until he fell asleep from exhaustion. But Grandma couldn't sleep. She spent her days lying in bed with nothing to do but sleep, so at night her mind was clear and sharp. She scolded my father relentlessly. Father valued face above all else. He was afraid Grandma might grow so angry that something would happen to her health. Every night, he had to stand by her bed and admit his faults. Day after day, he was worn down. Finally, he couldn't endure it any longer. One day, while I was studying, my father came to me. "Ethan," he said, "if your mom and I divorce, would you want to stay with me?" I looked up. "What do you mean? Didn't you want Leo?" He coughed awkwardly. "It's like this. I've thought it over these past few days. Your brother is still young. He can't be separated from his mother." "And Vanessa?" I asked. "Does she agree?" "I'll find a chance to talk to her," he muttered, rubbing his nose. His tone was lighter, but I could see the difficulty in his eyes. That woman didn't like me, so now I needed something solid from him. I set down my pen and turned my chair to face him directly. "As your son, I never hoped you and Mom would divorce. But since things have come this far, there's nothing more to say. I can stay with you. But I have conditions." He froze. "First," I said steadily, "I want to attend high school in Provincial City number 20. There were 2 reasons. 1, Mom would likely move there for work in the future. I wanted to be near her. 2, it was one of the best schools in the province. If I studied there, I would have opportunities to win competitions and earn scholarships. Second," I continued, "after you marry Aunt Vanessa, I want my own room. Proper lighting. Good soundproofing. No one is allowed to disturb me when I'm studying." I had already heard that after marrying Vanessa, my father planned to buy a house in the county. From now until university graduation, I would have to live under the same roof as them for 7 years. This had to be made clear now, especially with Sophie here around, her head filled with pink romantic fantasies. Third, all my living and educational expenses must be paid by you. I don't care who manages the money. But when I need it, you provide it. And one more thing," I added. "You must tell Aunt Vanessa clearly that it's your decision to support me." That was the most important point. I would not allow that woman to control all the finances and then leave me begging when I needed something. Everything I said was also a reminder to my father. Don't be foolish enough to hand all your money to her and let your own son suffer. All right, he said quickly. "I'll go talk to her now." He left in a hurry. Soon, I heard arguing from next door. Vanessa's voice was sharp with displeasure. "We agreed it would be Leo. Why has it suddenly become Ethan?" My father explained cautiously, "I wanted Leo too. But look at him, he's like a little bandit. The energy of a child never runs out. If this keeps up, this house will fall apart. Ethan is well behaved. And he'll be studying away soon. He'll only come back once a month. You don't agree?" He pressed. Vanessa persisted. "Children misbehave. So what? Raise him a few more years and he'll grow close. Ethan is almost an adult. Raising him is no different from raising a stranger." "How can you say that? He's your son too." My father tried to smooth things over with a smile. Vanessa cut him off. "Your son? Didn't we agree not to divide them into your son and my daughter? What exactly do you mean? She spoke with a pout, laced with anger. This was her usual tactic. She never screamed hysterically. A few aggrieved complaints were enough to make my father crumble. Just then, Sophie's voice rang out, "Uncle Joe, I want to talk to Mom alone." "You can go first." Father left. From next door, mother and daughter's voices continued, but too low for me to hear. I don't know what Sophie said to Vanessa, but the next day, Vanessa agreed that I would stay with my father, and her attitude toward me improved noticeably. The court date arrived sooner than expected. At the last minute, my father changed his mind. My mother, Lydia Lee, secured a 5-year employment contract. The worry about who would take care of Leo was finally gone. The court ruled, I would go with my father, Victor Joe. Leo would go with my mother, Vanessa. He and Sophie waited for my father outside the courthouse. Beneath the courthouse steps ran a main road. My mother and Leo walked toward the left, heading for the train station. Because he could follow Mom, Leo was overjoyed. He held her hand and bounced the entire way. Mom couldn't bear to leave me behind. She always felt ashamed for abandoning me. She believed she had failed me. When she waved goodbye, her eyes were already red and brimming. I walked toward the right with my father. Vanessa had already called a taxi. They got in immediately. My father stepped into the car. I did not move. He called out, "Ethan, what are you waiting for?" "You go ahead," I said. "I'll walk Mom and Leo a little farther. Mom still needs to get some things for Leo. I can ride back with them." Vanessa's voice floated over, soft as silk. "Ethan, from today on, you're separate from that household. The two families are now two unrelated families. You should start getting used to it." Her tone was gentle, but every word was like a sharpened blade stabbing into my legs. In that moment, I wanted nothing more than to curse her to her face. I said nothing. She seemed about to continue her kind advice, but my father pulled her back. He handed me 200 yuan. "Go eat something with them," he said. "Then come back." Leo wanted KFC, but my mother couldn't swallow a single bite. She said she wasn't used to eating that kind of food, but I knew she was simply too sad. I was sad too, but I was growing up. Soon, I would be a man. I had to be the pillar for my mother. I inserted a straw into her cup of orange juice and handed it to her. "Mom, have a sip." She only hummed faintly. Her eyes were red. "Ethan," she said hoarsely, "Mom is sorry. I can't take you with me." "Mom," I replied quietly, "this isn't your problem. As long as our plan goes smoothly, that's enough. We'll see each other soon." My throat tightened, my eyes burned. 3 years, Mom. Just wait for me 3 more years. By then, I can control my own life. I'll study hard. I'll get into a good university. I'll go far away from them. Every winter break, I'll come back to you. Mom broke down in sobs. "I'll wait for you," she said. Leo started crying too, calling over and over, "Big brother. Big brother." I forced my tears back. Everyone in the restaurant was staring at us. A kind stranger even asked a server to bring tissues. By afternoon, it was time to leave. I helped Mom pack up Leo's things. Then I personally walked them to their ride. I will never forget that day. The spring sunset stretched long shadows across the village road. The car drove away before my eyes, kicking up a thick cloud of dust. Mom and Leo leaned out of the window, waving desperately. I watched their faces, clear at first, then blurry, then gone. I stood there for a long, long time before finally turning back. Sophie. He was sitting on a stone bench by the roadside. She was wearing the new white dress she had bought that day. When she saw me return, she stood up happily. "Ethan," she called. I ignored her and walked past. She grabbed my sleeve and raised her voice. "Ethan. Didn't you hear me?" "Let go," I warned coldly, turning to look at her. She tilted her chin up arrogantly, like a victor. "And if I don't?" This rude little brat. With a slight jerk of my arm, I freed myself and continued walking. She didn't get angry. Instead, she shouted after me, "Ethan. I told you we'd become family. See? I was right. From now on, we'll be even closer." Inside the house, Vanessa stood by the window holding a plate of fruit, watching us. At that time, I was still naive. I didn't understand the malice in people's hearts. I didn't understand the hidden meaning in Vanessa's gaze. I only understood much later. The day before the high school entrance exam was a beautiful, auspicious day. Victor Joe registered his marriage with Vanessa. Afterward, the three of them went around distributing wedding candies to the neighbors. I shut myself in my room and studied. After handing out the candies, Vanessa went into Grandma Eleanor Joe's room to give her some. At dinner, Sophie handed me a piece of candy. "These are the best ones we bought," she said sweetly. That year, I had grown quickly. In 9th grade, I was already 1.75 meters tall. When she spoke to me, she had to look up. She loved smiling at me. Before, she had loudly proclaimed everywhere that she liked me. Many classmates knew about it. Now she had become the laughingstock of the entire school. But she didn't feel embarrassed at all. In her mind, becoming my stepsister was perfectly natural, even something worth celebrating. It gave her more opportunities to be close to me. I truly saw her as a fool. Did she have no sense of right or wrong? How could she think I would eat wedding candy celebrating my father's marriage to another woman? My father even added fuel to the fire. "It's from your sister. Just eat one. One won't hurt." I wanted to laugh, but I couldn't. I didn't take the candy from Sophie's hand. I said coldly, "Before exams, I don't eat random things. I'm afraid of getting diarrhea." But basic courtesy still had to be maintained. "Congratulations, Dad. In the end, people who love each other do become family. I can't wish you an early son, though. After all, you already have 2 sons." After that, I sat down and started eating. Everyone's faces turned green. She wanted to pretend to be nauseous. Please. Who doesn't know how to put on an act? If it came to acting, I could outdo them 100 times over. The exams went smoothly. After finishing, I bought the answer key that others had compiled, calculated my score, and then called Mom with the good news. She said she was doing well. Work had begun to fall into place, but she still hadn't found a place of her own yet, so she was temporarily staying at Miriam Sue's house. "When I find a place," she said, "you can come stay with me for a few days." "Don't rush," I told her. "I've already told Dad I'll be boarding at school through high school. Once I'm settled in the new school, I'll come find you." At that moment, I had only one thought. If I hadn't studied hard enough before, then now I would study until I broke. I would give everything to it. She always felt ashamed for abandoning me. She believed she had failed me. When she waved goodbye, her eyes were already red and brimming. I walked toward the right with my father. Vanessa had already called a taxi. They got in immediately. My father stepped into the car. I did not move. He called out, "Ethan, what are you waiting for?" "You go ahead," I said. "I'll walk Mom and Leo a little farther. Mom still needs to get some things for Leo. I can ride back with them." Vanessa's voice floated over, soft as silk. Ethan, from today on, you're separate from that household. The two families are now two unrelated families. You should start getting used to it." Her tone was gentle, but every word was like a sharpened blade stabbing into my legs. In that moment, I wanted nothing more than to curse her to her face. I said nothing. She seemed about to continue her kind advice, but my father pulled her back. He handed me 200 yuan. "Go eat something with them," he said. "Then come back." Leo wanted KFC, but my mother couldn't swallow a single bite. She said she wasn't used to eating that kind of food, but I knew she was simply too sad. I was sad too, but I was growing up. Soon, I would be a man. I had to be the pillar for my mother. I inserted a straw into her cup of orange juice and handed it to her. "Mom, have a sip." She only hummed faintly. Her eyes were red. "Ethan," she said hoarsely, "Mom is sorry. I can't take you with me." "Mom," I replied quietly, "this isn't your problem. As long as our plan goes smoothly, that's enough. We'll see each other soon." My throat tightened, my eyes burned. 3 years, Mom. Just wait for me 3 more years. By then, I can control my own life. I'll study hard. I'll get into a good university. I'll go far away from them. Every winter break, I'll come back to you. Mom broke down in sobs. "I'll wait for you," she said. Leo started crying too, calling over and over, "Big brother. Big brother." I forced my tears back. Even if it meant studying myself to death, then so be it. On June 22nd, the scores were released. I ranked first in the entire township, third in the entire county. I exceeded even the principal's expectations. That afternoon, after the results were announced, countless admissions teachers called me. Public schools, private schools, schools within the county, schools outside the county, even schools from neighboring provinces. They all met my requirements for entering my chosen school X. 3 years of free tuition. After enrollment, they would even grant additional scholarships. My father, Victor Zhou, was overjoyed. In his eyes, I had earned him tremendous face. He held a 3-day banquet. He rewarded me with 2,000 yuan, 6 million in old currency, and told me to go have fun. I went to visit Mom. I bought clothes for her, Transformers toys for Leo. Those few days were happy, especially Miriam Su. She chatted with me often, talking about the lessons of human nature. She taught me how to deal with people, how to read them. It was incredibly useful. When I returned, I deliberately bought gifts for my father, Vanessa and Sophie as well. They weren't expensive, but they suited each of them. Miriam had been right. A true master strikes without drawing blood, she told me. She taught me many ways to deal with Vanessa's family, in modern terms. Walk the green tea path so that the green tea girls have nowhere left to go. It was true. When I brought the gifts home, the 3 of them were delighted. My father said warmly, "That's right. A family should be like this." I smiled on the surface. Inside, there were only 2 words. How boring. Finally, after enduring everything, school began. At last, I could distance myself from that wretched household. But Sophie must have taken the wrong medicine. She threw a tantrum to attend the same school as me. My father thought the annual tuition, over 10,000 yuan, was expensive and didn't want her to go. But he couldn't withstand her daily crying and dramatics. In the end, he gave in. He even told me, "You two can attend the same school. It'll be convenient to look after each other." I was speechless. On the first day of school, Vanessa brought Sophie. My father brought me. They registered separately as our respective parents. After finishing the procedures, we had lunch together. Then we climbed into the car my father had recently bought. I couldn't deny it. Living with him had raised my standard of living by several levels. I heard that once we returned, we'd go look at the new house. Sophie stopped me before I could leave. She wanted to add me on QQ, that's right. We had both been given brand new mobile phones. But I didn't want any unnecessary contact with her. I refused. Why? She demanded. I glanced at her. I need to focus on studying. She grabbed my arm. Ethan, you should thank me for convincing my mom. I know you wanted to stay with your dad. It was because I put in a good word that Mom agreed. I was afraid she would start spreading nonsense at school and cling to me endlessly, so I decided to make it clear. Are you stupid? I said coldly. Your mother destroyed my family. You think you and I can be normal? How can you say that? She cried. Ethan. My mom and your dad truly love each other. Your dad didn't even love your mom. They divorced already. She widened her eyes, desperately whitewashing her mother. Get lost, I said, pushing her aside and walking off. Who would have thought? She was even thicker-skinned than her mother. During military training, she frequently came to my class to make her presence known. If she wasn't bringing water, she was bringing sunscreen. I'm a grown man. Do I need sunscreen? The more I rejected her, the more she clung to me. After every training session, she would come wander around my classroom several times. Soon enough, the rumor spread across the school. Sophie he from class 10A9 liked Ethan from class 10A1. In the dormitory, someone asked me, she's actually pretty good looking. If you don't like her, couldn't you at least be a bit nicer? I told them clearly about our family relationship. They were stunned, then they admired, almost feared, Sophie's shamelessness. After that, whenever someone spread rumors, my dorm mates would explain the truth for me. One day, Sophie blocked me outside my classroom. Every time she came, she had to ask classmates whether I had eaten yet. Perhaps because I avoided her like the plague, she began crazily sending me text messages. My school was strict. Every Monday, we had to hand in our phones to the teachers. We only got them back on Saturday. I didn't know whether other classes collected phones too. That depended on the homeroom teacher. The school didn't forbid phones outright, but every time I turned mine on, message alerts would ring non-stop for 1 or 2 minutes. Even my roommates felt she was insane. Someone joked she was the legendary Yandra type. If she couldn't have you, she wouldn't give up. They helped me think of ways to stop it. Otherwise, my studies would be affected. I agreed. Eventually, the matter reached my homeroom teacher, Mr. Harrison. I told him everything clearly. He called her parents to school. Of course, that meant my father and Vanessa. After hearing the whole story, my father's face turned dark. He forced a smile and assured the teacher he would discipline Sophie properly. Mr. Harrison was stern. Whatever relationship the parents have is not something we teachers can interfere with, he said coldly. But Ethan is an outstanding student. He was admitted into A1. As his homeroom teacher, I will support him to the very end. I don't want her to be affected by any outside factors, Mr. Harrison said sternly. Can the parents guarantee that? Yes. Yes, we can, my father and Vanessa replied in unison. After the teacher left, they went looking for Sophie. It was PE class at the time. I later heard that in the middle of the school field, Sophie had rolled around on the ground throwing a tantrum. Vanessa doted on her and defended her desperately. Meanwhile, my father was furious, scolding her loudly. No matter how much he loved Vanessa, he still shouted, "Don't you dare set your sights on my son." I only learned about all this afterward, when Grandma Eleanor Jo told me. Sophie's current boyfriend is an outstanding student, Grandma said. They got into a fight. Sophie was involved too. The beaten student's parents called the police. Everyone who participated had to pay compensation. After that, the school expelled them. I heard the compensation was over 50,000 yuan, more than 17 million in old currency. Vanessa didn't have that kind of money. The girl went home demanding your father pay. He was furious. They argued from afternoon until dawn. After marrying my father, Vanessa had neglected her hair salon business. Competitors took all her clients. In the end, my father still paid the money. But he warned her, if Sophie causes any more trouble, don't expect to squeeze a single cent out of me. The two of them had been in a cold war ever since. For several days, I didn't see Sophie at all. She locked herself in her room, refusing to come out. She caused scenes, demanding to see her excellent boyfriend. They had scolded her. They had beaten her. Vanessa stayed up day and night watching over her. Her mental state deteriorated. She seemed to age several years in just days. But no matter how closely she watched, Sophie still managed to run away. Vanessa asked everyone she knew. No one knew where she had gone. She washed her face with tears every day. The atmosphere at home grew heavy and bleak. With her nerves shot, Vanessa no longer bothered pretending to be gentle. She began openly arguing with my father. Eventually, the police found Sophie. I don't know the exact details. But one thing was clear, Sophie's resentment ran deep. She believed her mother had ruined her reputation. During winter break, Mr. Harrison came to visit students' homes. We sat in the living room. Sophie never once came out. After speaking for nearly an hour, Mr. Harrison said he hoped my parents would be my strongest support, not a source of distraction, so I could devote myself fully to my studies. My father was thrilled. He kept nodding eagerly. Yes, yes, of course. Vanessa tried to smile too, but she couldn't. It didn't matter. I could smile just fine. As I walked Mr. Harrison out, Sophie stepped out of her room. She stood at her doorway, staring directly at me. Vanessa asked cautiously, Sophie, are you hungry? What do you want to eat? Mom will cook it for you. Her voice carried a hint of hope. Sophie didn't look at her. She looked at me instead. Ethan, she asked quietly, is school fun? Your grades are very good, right? It had been a long time since she had spoken to me. I was slightly surprised. Before I could answer, my father replied sincerely, he's doing fine. His teacher said if he works a bit harder, he could get into Tsinghua. Sophie forced a faint smile, then. Congratulations. Congratulations, Uncle Zhou, she added. She laughed. This time, the sound was much more natural. Then she turned to Vanessa. Mom. Come here. I have something to tell you. Vanessa responded immediately and hurried over. Naturally, I didn't care what they discussed. After winter break, school resumed. I didn't go home during the May Day holiday. Grandma's 79th birthday was approaching. In our village, the tradition was that since an 80-year-old was considered nearing the end of life, the 79th birthday had to be celebrated grandly. My father personally drove to pick me up, saying I should relax a little. That day, many guests came to celebrate. The feast lasted until late into the night. Some guests left. Some stayed. Some slept over at our house. My room was given up to one of Vanessa's relatives. After studying for a while, I felt thirsty and went out to look for water. Vanessa said there was no boiled water left. She hadn't had time to prepare more. She handed me a glass of fruit juice instead. I had just taken the glass when Sophie called me. She asked me to come into her room to check whether there was a problem with her computer. She was wearing a white nightgown. Her face was flushed, moist. For a moment, I was reminded of that afternoon when I had said goodbye to Mom. She had worn a white dress that day too, lifting her chin confidently, declaring that she and I would become family. Perhaps there was something wrong with this glass of fruit juice. Because that night, under very special circumstances, Vanessa accused me of sleeping with Sophie. She left me no room to deny it. She said she had witnesses, her relatives. They could testify that I had not been in my room that night. She even claimed Sophie had hidden the truth out of fear. My period hasn't come for more than 10 days, Sophie said. That was why Vanessa had taken measures. And once she learned Sophie was pregnant, she immediately began accusing me. She kept repeating it, over and over. Quite a few people believed her. I was surrounded by a crowd, unable to get a word out. Only after someone reminded her did she suddenly think to call the police. That same person even said, "If the embryo hasn't been disposed of, you can do a DNA test to see whether it's his." So what if he studies well? Someone muttered. If his character is rotten, he's still trash. Some time later, my mother, Lydia Lee, rushed to the police station. Only then did things begin to clear up. She had run so fast she lost one of her shoes. Crying, she defended me desperately. "Ethan has always been a good boy. He's been obedient since he was little. He would never do something like this." The police said calmly, "A test will tell us immediately. If your son is innocent, you should be thankful the embryo hasn't been handled yet." I walked over and gently wiped her tears. "Mom, don't cry. Don't forget why I asked you to come." That's right, I had called her here, so that one day she could live in wealth and honor, so that she could be proud of having a son like me. I had asked her to come. 6 hours later, the results came out. My mother sat with me in that police station for the full 6 hours. From my father's house to the station was only a little over 10 minutes. Yet even by then, he still hadn't shown up. The police asked if I had any other evidence proving my innocence. Because I was a minor, and the embryo alone might not be enough, but I insisted on waiting for the results. The truth proved my luck was not bad. The doctor said the embryo was sufficient for testing. The compatibility rate between him and the embryo is 95.7%. "I am not the father," I said quietly. Vanessa grabbed the report and screamed, "What does this mean? What does this mean?" The doctor replied calmly, "It means this boy and the fetus in your daughter's womb are siblings." The compatibility between siblings of the same bloodline ranges from 95% to 98%. Those words stunned everyone, including me, because that meant the one who had gotten Sophie pregnant that night was. Vanessa's mind collapsed. She grabbed my arm tightly, unwilling to let go. No. No. It was Ethan. It was Ethan. I'm certain it was Ethan. The police officer immediately sensed something. "Why are you so certain it was him?" he pressed. "Why?" "Because she had tampered with it. Because she knew exactly what she had done." Vanessa fell silent. I spoke up. "Officer, you asked if I had other evidence. Now I can provide a witness." That night, I had just taken a sip of the fruit juice when I needed to use the restroom. I left the glass on the table and went to the bathroom. When I returned, the juice was gone. I was holding the empty glass when Sophie suddenly asked me to check her computer. When I entered her room, she was dressed provocatively. She tried to approach me. Her face was flushed. She was breathing heavily. She kept calling my name. I realized something wasn't right. Everything that mother and daughter did that night was too coincidental. So I left her room immediately. I texted my best friend, telling him there was no space left at my house and that I was coming over. I told him to wait for me. That night, I went to my friend's house. His entire family can testify that I was not in Sophie's room. I originally intended to shed my shell like a cicada, escape quietly and leave mother and daughter with no chance to harm me. I didn't expect that after I left, someone else would be willing to continue the script that had been written to trap me. When Vanessa stopped me midway that night, I had already thought through every step to escalate the situation straight to the police station. After all, the people sleeping in my house that night were all her relatives. Who would have guessed, the person who entered Sophie's room was my father. Victor Zhou was brought to the police station. When he faced my mother, dust still clinging to her clothes from running, she pointed at him and cursed, "You beast! You even tried to harm your own son. If you hadn't done something so filthy, would your son have been framed like this?" As she spoke, she shot Vanessa a glance. Vanessa didn't look at my mother at all. The moment she saw my father, she rushed forward, hitting and cursing him. "Why you? Why was it you?" She cried and screamed hysterically. "How could you do this to us? How are my daughter and I supposed to live now? How do you still have the face to look at us?" Then she viciously slapped herself twice. "It's your fault for being stupid. Your fault for being blind. Vanessa, how could you be so foolish? These past few days he's been cold to you, and you didn't even realize? Sophie. Sophie. Mom is sorry." She wailed like a madwoman. My father covered his face as fists rained down on him. He hunched over, sobbing. I knew why he was crying. The pride he had always valued above everything was gone, completely gone. I don't know how he explained himself to the police, but I deliberately told them my suspicions, that the fruit juice had been tampered with, that after I came out of the restroom, I had seen my father nearby. At that time, there had been no one else in that area, only him. And a few uncles drinking and chatting. I never imagined my father could be so depraved. To harbor desire for a minor girl. Following my statement, the police investigated further. Sure enough, Vanessa had deliberately drugged the juice. Sophie had drunk it too. One person had become intoxicated unintentionally. The other had taken it deliberately. Under those circumstances, whether anyone wanted it or not, something was bound to happen. With the matter exposed to this extent, Vanessa could only withdraw her accusation, but she could no longer bear the sight of my father. The two of them fought constantly. They fought until they used knives and scissors. They went to the police station countless times. The officers in our district developed headaches the moment they heard their names. Many people advised them to get a divorce, but every time the word divorce was mentioned, Vanessa would burst into tears and start screaming curses. The woman who had once been famous for her beauty had now become sharp-tongued and vicious. Why wouldn't she agree to a divorce? Simple. She still hadn't gotten what she wanted. After being discharged from the hospital, Sophie's mental state became extremely unstable. She attempted suicide several times, but failed each time. The last time, she ended up hospitalized for an entire week. My father, Victor Zhou, formerly Mr. Zhou, couldn't endure it anymore. They separated first, then they divorced. To be honest, he had already given Vanessa quite a large sum of money over the years. Now, he refused to give her another cent, but a person like Vanessa was the type who would bite down and never let go. Even if the house was collapsing, she would still try to grab a handful before leaving. When the divorce was finalized, she took Sophie with her. Where they went, I didn't know. And I didn't care. Before she left, Sophie came to see me once. She had grown thin, like a stick. There were bandages wrapped around her wrist. She looked at me, Her eyes were no longer arrogant like before, they were fragile. Weak. I used to think Uncle Joe and my mom were true love, she said softly. Now I know. People like that are no different from dogs fighting over scraps. If you steal something that doesn't belong to you, you'll lose it in the end. She gave a faint smile. I shouldn't have liked you either. You're such a good person. I was never worthy of reaching for you. Especially after losing everything, I still foolishly dreamed of tying you down. Ha! I'm really ridiculous. I said nothing. People like Sophie and Vanessa, they did not deserve my sympathy. After everything that happened, my father couldn't keep the store running anymore. The scandal had spread, his reputation was ruined. People would rather walk farther to buy their goods than step into his shop. In the end, he had no choice but to transfer the store to my mother, Lydia Lee, formerly Ms. Lee. As for himself, he left town to work as a laborer. In recent years, his life has not been stable, work hasn't gone well, his health has deteriorated. He began frequently contacting my mother again, using the excuse that the children need their father, and that she shouldn't remain a single mother forever. He wanted to remarry. My mother came to ask for my opinion. I told her, don't ask us. That man treated you cruelly once. He will do it a second time. The next day, she blocked his number. I raised both hands in support of her decision. After taking over the store, my mother expanded the business. One section specialized in selling veterinary medicine and pet food. She hired an excellent veterinarian to manage it. The other section sold pesticides and fertilizer. She managed it herself. The profits multiplied several times compared to when my father had been the owner. Once you have money, who needs a man, especially not a despicable one? As for me, after finishing university, I continued on to earn my master's degree. After graduation, I invested in building a factory with partners. The salary is quite high. My younger brother, Leo Zhou, didn't fall behind either. After graduating from high school, he was admitted into one of the top universities. In the past 2 years, my mother met someone. He had known her back when she worked in the cafeteria owned by Miriam Sue's husband. I heard he was Miriam Sue's friend and business partner. I urged my mother to let Leo and me meet him. She said not to rush. She said that when I brought my girlfriend home to meet her, she would then introduce the two of us to that mysterious man. Truthfully, there is already someone I like. I am doing my very best to win her heart. I believe that my life, my mother's life, and my brother's life, will only grow better and better from here. The end. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to Love Stories with Lisa for more stories. Thank you so much.